Thank you very much, Ian. Yeah, it's an honor to be on and share some information. And yeah, we're on the same page here. I stretch habitually my whole life. Have some martial arts background, and I'm an athlete. I'm 52, but I compete regularly with 20 and 30 somethings, and this is one of my secrets. Yeah, I took a roundabout way of getting into this field, but I've been educating myself in holistic healthcare, nutrition, for about 35 years. My dad was a doctor, my mom was a nurse, but I saw pretty early on they were not happy in their jobs, and I knew I didn't want that. But I wanted high quality of life, high performance, longevity. So I've been going in that direction for a very long time. Eventually, I got into body work, becoming an RMT in Ontario, and I met Dr. Bruce at a massage trade show about 1 year into my career, and I had already kind of recognized that the autonomic nervous system is the key to not only getting good massage therapy results for people, but keeping myself healthy and recovering smoothly after workouts, staying loose and healthy, having a good immune system, having controlled, moderate inflammation, and a good self healing rate and recovery from exercise. So I saw him at a trade show boasting his autonomic results from one of his published studies. Um, and beside him were people selling new lotions or cups or foam rollers. And I had already, been there and done that. So I got to talking to him about why he's obsessed with the autonomic system and what these devices are. And I ended up trying to buy one of his protocol books and going away with it. He wouldn't let me do that, but he did offer to do a demonstration on me. And I said, well, I'm a pretty healthy guy. I don't know how you're going to help me. But he picked my brain. And I shared with him that I had been trying to get rid of some right adductor tension, groin pain, for about 3 months. Uh, I had tried every stretching technique I had ever heard of, every massage technique I had been taught. I tried supplements. I tried compression shorts. Um, I had tried everything. Uh, he did a 9-minute demonstration and unlocked 30% better range as soon as I got off the table. I got down and did my goalie splits, and I realized there's no longer that hard end feel. There's no longer that sharp pain. Um, and it just improved from there. I was able to go from that to about 90% recovery over the next week, continuing with the old traditional techniques that I knew. So something he did in that 9 minutes unlocked this tissue potential for better excursion, better range of motion, less pain. And I've been trying to wrap my head around that ever since. Um, so I left that experience, and about a year later, 1 year later, after vetting him, researching this, sinking my teeth into the autonomics and how that might be affecting my stretching results and my pain, my functionality. And I eventually took the introductory workshop. It's a weekend workshop. I bought the units, and I have never stopped using them since. My Yeah, 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 yeah. It's wonderful to, help people that have hit a block. They've done so much on their own. They've tried sometimes dozens of therapies, different therapists, the expensive stuff, the elite level stuff. And in 10 minutes, I can set them up for a life-changing treatment. Like it's the thing that made me obsessed about this is that I would get, I would do everything right. I would do everything I was taught, do everything in the right order. I'd get decent results, and a couple of days later, they would relapse, and that was driving me crazy. Uh, Pretty early on, and this so far, this is the most effective single therapy that I can add that unlocks that roadblock, that plateau people get to. And sometimes it's a minor change. Sometimes it's something like unlocking a hip. Sometimes it's relieving pain that's been with someone for 30 years. And yeah, the sky's the limit. One of my favorite things is to teach people how to use this on themselves so that they can treat themselves between treatments, even if it's not with me. Even if they go forward, they don't need me anymore after 6 or 10 treatments. And I know they're relatively independent now. I know that whatever therapist they end up with, they're going to get best possible results. Yeah. 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 That is the biggest thing that happened to me with Dr. Bruce is he changed the way I was thinking, and it automatically led to better results, easier results. I work less every treatment, and I work less hard every treatment, and I get better results every treatment. And it turns out that this relationship between the fascia and the autonomic nervous system, specifically the sympathetic nervous system, and scar tissue, is what keeps people chronically relapsing. It keeps their sympathetic activity level too high. It amplifies inflammation and pain and hypertonicity in the muscles. So I know you've probably in your background with stretching, you've probably once in a while come up against a muscle that wants to retighten. Like you'll treat it, you'll stretch it, and in days or sometimes hours, that muscle's tight again. Are you consciously choosing to retighten that muscle? Because I wasn't. The autonomic nervous system does that for us automatically. Breaking that vicious cycle can be extremely difficult and sometimes literally impossible. But what we've figured out is if you use these units and you send electrical current, this pulsed direct microcurrent through scar tissue, I'll demonstrate on my wrist because this was the second personal success story I had. When you send current through scar tissue, it reorganizes the scar tissue and it re-lengthens it, and it reduces how much that scar tissue is irritating and triggering your sympathetic nerve fibers, which causes the retightening of the muscles. You can short circuit that vicious cycle with this particular current. The skill is in learning how to use them to steer it through the right tissue and then how to follow it up with a couple of simple steps, about half a dozen acupoints. And that could be taught in 10 minutes. So it's pretty remarkable. I'll show you up close here. I don't know if you can see this knob, this bump on the back of my wrist. I do not have one on this wrist. There, a black background is better. That this bump, that's a ganglion. So that's a bursa that was chronically irritated. When I was about 19 years old, I punched something. That was a stupid choice. And cannot undo that choice. This is going to be here forever. But from 19 till 40 years old, when I was in massage school, this would flare up a few times a year. The worst thing was winter gloves construction in Canada. Within a couple of hours of doing this with my glove on and doing regular construction work, this would flare up to about that big and that fat. And I couldn't even make a fist, couldn't pick up a hammer, couldn't hold a drill. So literally missing work days at a time whenever that would flare up. After I took the scar release course, I thought to myself, well, considering what I was taught, if I do this, if I send current through this tissue and dance it around, knowing that this is essentially scar tissue around a bursa that cannot release. And then eventually I did this because I'm pretty clever. I thought I was pretty clever in myself then. I did that and I sent the current through the scar tissue and reconnected it up the myofascial chain to the nerve roots that control this. Maybe that'll change how loose this is and how often it flares up. This hasn't flared up since. I treat 6 to 8 people a day, 5 to 6 days a week. I play competitive ball hockey, and this is my goalie stick hand. So I'm using this hand by itself to manipulate a heavy goalie stick. It hasn't flared up since. Between my hip and my wrist, like I can't get enough of doing this for all of my scars and teaching other people how to do this for their own bodies, because it literally unlocks our physical potential in terms of myofascial excursion, the ability of muscles and fascia to glide and release from each other, i.e. stretch, right? So yeah, to me, this is the missing link to regaining full range of motion for anybody who's hit a block or hit a plateau or who's feeling pain during stretching. Despite how much yoga they're doing, despite how many experts like yourself they go to, despite trying like Stretch Lab or, Human Garage, all those techniques, all of those modalities are beautiful. They're all beautiful. They're all genius level ways of, optimizing human function, actualizing ourselves. But this is the most specific, foolproof, self-applied, convenient thing I've ever discovered. You can use all those techniques in conjunction with this, and you're going to unlock the results that they're all capable of. People just don't seem to realize that scar tissue interacting with the autonomic system, triggering a stress response, triggering inflammation and pain, is the vicious cycle that's holding us back from all that. Sure. Okay. Yeah. The autonomic nervous system is not the central nervous system. The central nervous system is the brain and spinal cord, and the peripheral nerves that send and receive signals to our limbs and the muscles and give us conscious control over movement. The autonomic nervous system is unconscious. It is what regulates our stress response and our relaxation response. The stress response is the key to survival. That's what got us here. If the nervous system detects threat, it responds with a spike in cortisol and the stress hormones. It shunts the blood away from the core and the parasympathetic organs, and it puts it in our muscles so that we can run or fight. That's the fight and flight response. And the sympathetic nervous system is one branch of that autonomic nervous system. Okay. The complementary balancing branch of the autonomic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system. That system activates when we're not in stress, and it's the key to having good digestion, good sleep, good wound healing, low inflammation, good digestion, normal appetite, fertility. I might be forgetting one or two functions, but you get the idea. It's critical to quality of life, right? The sympathetic system ensures our survival, and the parasympathetic system ensures quality of life and normal function and longevity. When these two systems take turns in harmony, being active every day, we feel normal and resilient. When this happens and the sympathetic system is elevated and the parasympathetics are down here off the screen, we become chronically upregulated, and that's when people feel chronic inflammation, chronic pain, sleep disturbances, indigestion, infertility, tight muscles, and a couple of other things, but you get the idea. These two systems are supposed to take turns activating, and this is an epidemic, this sympathetic upregulation. And the way I phrase it for people is usually the first half of our lives, we're like this. It doesn't matter what you did the night before, you wake up feeling fine. You feel like a kid, you're flexible, you're loose, you're energetic. At some point in the second half of your life, it's different. And you start to feel in the morning what you did last night. And you start to feel like you don't have the same energy. You start to feel achy and inflammatory. You start to feel like you're holding tight muscles, tension in your body. And other things can get affected, like digestion, appetite, fertility. But that's the most common symptom, is that sense of tension and pain and inflammation, the achiness in your joints. And that's a sign that your sympathetic nervous system is too active too often. What's usually triggering that is an accumulation of scar tissue from life's circumstances, surgeries, scars, stitches, unfortunately, tattoos and piercings. Anything that drives up the stress response is going to contribute to that. And that's when we end up tight and difficult to stretch. It's pretty important to normalize this system before you intervene with somebody with manual techniques to try to get better range or try to reduce pain or try to help them relax. You have to take that system into account. Treat that system first, and you're going to get better results with whatever technique you apply after this. If somebody's coming in and they seem pretty normal, I will actually start with manual techniques. If they come in, however, and this is what's happening for me more and more, is people are coming to me because they're upregulated already, because they've tried everything. I know if I find out that they have several significant scars on their body, I know I have to consider those scars before just using conventional massage techniques and expecting good results from that. They're going to be a relapser if I just use manual techniques, right? I'm going to work harder doing it, and they're going to relapse faster. That doesn't make sense. Most of the people coming to me nowadays have already experienced that with other therapists. So they're actually looking for something different. It's easy for me to introduce this, explain why I would try it first, considering their past results, and it's almost immediately a game changer. 15 to 20 minutes of this before massage is all I need to make permanent, get much different results than what they're used to. It does. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, for sure, for sure. We'll use C-section as an example because it's so common. There's two ways to answer your question. Two ways that scar tissue, to simplify it, will affect that person's functionality, their range of motion, their tension, and their stress level. So locally, a scar right on the abdomen, that's going right across the vital organs. All of the meridians and energy channels in the Eastern perspective run vertically up the front of the body. They've all just been interrupted. Ironically, in science, C-section scars do not manifest as lower abdominal pain. They manifest as neck, shoulder, and knee pain, and low back pain. So let's wrap our heads around that. You can verify that in science. You do your research. Locally, the scar tissue in the fascia has added tensile stress to that fascia. Okay? It just so happens that our fascia is not just fascia. The fascia is actually an anchoring system for the sympathetic nervous system. And if you remember, the sympathetic nervous system is our survival system. If the sympathetic fibers detect pressure, heat, if the nociceptors get triggered, those are the pain receptors, they send their signals to the central sympathetic autonomic system, and the system responds by saying, okay, we want to feel safer, tighten that up. All of a sudden, you've got tight muscles being perpetuated by injured fascia because the fascia is holding nerve endings and blood vessels and lymphatic vessels. It's not just fascia. The fascia is also electrically conductive. So we have to consider the fascia actually, in terms of the electrical conduction, as an extension of the nervous system. It does envelop every muscle and every organ and every bone, every nerve. It's also electrically conductive. When we send this gentle, pulsed, harmless current through the fascia that's been entangled or it's been bunched up, it's been severed, that fascia is suddenly, instead of being like this and stuck, it's suddenly able to have better excursion. Okay? And that means that there's going to be less triggering of the sympathetic fibers and therefore less response to that, less inflammation, less tension, less pain. How did I do there? Is that simple enough? So that's one. The one area that it affects us is the local treatment. So that releasing that local entanglement, allowing for better movement right here, but also that autonomic system is relieved of this trigger in the future. Going forward, their tendency to relapse is reduced. That's the second way that this technique helps release the fascia and the muscle system from the nervous system so that there's no more false alarms and overreaction to that tensile stress and that minor irritation that your system might interpret as a threat and react to. Still with me? Great. All right. Well, a recent one that was actually a demonstration at a mainstream medical conference, the Pre-Med show in Toronto. Um, when was that? A couple of months ago. Yeah. So I did a demonstration for a woman who had a C-section scar. She was complaining about hip pain. And I said, yeah, normally I would do all this, but for today's purposes, why don't we treat your C-section scar and see how it goes? So I treated her C-section scar, about a 10-minute treatment for free in a loud, bustling conference environment. She got up, felt more open here, felt lighter. Hip pain was reduced. Pretty impressive, modest improvements, but impressed. She contacted the office a week later and said, which she hadn't shared with us before, her incontinence had resolved. It's a true story. We have a videotape testimonial from her. So she ended up coming back and buying kits for self-treatment at home. She was a nurse. But, most conventionally trained doctors and nurses will never learn these things we're talking about right now. They're never going to think that this is capable of undoing surgical wounds or changing functionality in 10 minutes or improving range of motion, reducing pain, and therefore literally improving quality of life and longevity. They will never, it's against their belief system. For a lot of people, it actually causes cognitive dissonance. They just can't wrap their head around it. We get some people online who respond to our testimonial videos and say, like, I was just reading one 10 minutes ago. I don't believe this one bit. That's their response to like honest, real people sharing their experience testimonials. We do this on a daily basis. Daily basis. Dozens of therapists I know doing this on a daily basis. It's not that hard. It's just based on autonomic science instead of central nervous system science. And the paradigm that our doctors and nurses are trained in is the central and peripheral nervous system. This is an autonomic intervention that results in better central and peripheral function. Yeah, 36 years. Yeah, 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 yeah. It's routinely, no, it's routinely amazing. Uh, it's a privilege for me to be here and to be learning alongside him, to be getting better at this. I'm still, this is something I'll be doing the rest of my life, trying to comprehend better and better and better. I came to this with no background in acupuncture. I was gonna start acupuncture, and I found this instead. That booklet that I wanted to buy from him at the show was a protocol booklet, and I believe in trigger point therapy and shiatsu and reflexology. And I thought, oh, if I wrap my head around these protocols, that's going to give me lots of insight. I'm going to be a better manual therapist just by reading this book. That would have been true, but when you do this first, it's like I feel like I am an integrated clinic by myself. I can use this in 3 different ways in 15 to 20 minutes to set them up for the best possible outcomes using massage techniques. I happen to use osteopathic techniques too because they're elegant and efficient, not painful. Um, it doesn't really matter what you're bringing to the table. Regulate the autonomic system first, improve the condition of the scar tissue once you've identified where it is, and the sky's the limit. Oh yeah, yeah. Well, with help like people from yourself, uh, people who are self-educating, biohackers, people who are looking outside the conventional system for better outcomes. On a regular basis, more and more people contact us and say, "What are you guys doing? Like, I got a demonstration from this. My leg's better ever since. What's going on? How do I get involved?" There's just going to be more and more growth. 36 years is a long time, and it's a lot of momentum. And it seems like people are finally starting to think outside the central and peripheral nervous system box and respect the autonomic nervous system. And if you just do a Google search on, vagus nerve stimulation, autonomic tone, HRV, you're going to realize normalizing your own autonomic nervous system is the secret to quality of life and longevity. It's not the central and peripheral style of intervention. That's how we were taught. Maybe that's the best place to start when you're becoming a body worker or a doctor. But for me, to become a healer, you have to become acquainted with the autonomic system and how to help it regulate. The holy grail of healing and self healing is self regulation, restoring the person's ability for these two systems to resume taking turns again, right? This is the secret to recovery from exercise, and exercising does this. We love exercising. We love being athletic. We love our sports. Our sports do not relax us, they stress us. And as long as you're young enough and healthy enough, this happens after exercise and overnight. And you wake up doing this, feeling good, feeling rested, energetic, and ready to go again. But the second half of life is, in this modern age, characterized by way too much stress too often and not enough self-healing and relaxation response. Reversing that is the key. This is the best. It's like having a remote control for your autonomic nervous system. I, I, Sometimes I say to people, like, you have a fantastic TV at home. How about if I sold you a remote control for that TV? What do you think of that? That's what we're dealing with here, in the way I see it when I simplify it for people. Yeah, it's micro. It is one of the lowest voltage TENS devices in the world, and it is intentionally kept below the threshold for sympathetic activation. That's the whole point. There's too much of this already. This device does this in real time, and that's the key. You have to reduce stress so that the system can accept more stress from your manual techniques, right? I, w- I would go down the rabbit hole of autonomic tone, autonomic self regulation. Uh, Find us on YouTube. We have a bunch of free YouTube videos, including testimonials and basic instructions how to use it. Um, do your due diligence and research. Compare our device to other vagus nerve stimulation devices and realize how adaptive this is and how it can be used for first correcting scar release, scar tissue, and adhesions in the body that are triggering stress. And then use this. One unit will drive the vagus nerve stimulation kit, which helps reduce the stress and stimulate your self healing relaxation response. Um, yeah, there are competitors out there. As far as we know, we're the oldest one. We know we're the lowest voltage. We deliberately stay below the threshold for sympathetic activation. Um, but to your point, most of the time, you won't feel pain per se. You'll feel, the sharp tip of this touching your skin, but this tip retracts. It's spring loaded. It doesn't matter how hard I press, it's still only going to apply a little bit of pressure. But when you find a point in your body that does correlate with a restriction or an energetic or a fascial blockage, you can feel pain. You might swear an actual hot needle is going through your skin. And that sensation will be temporary. You're going to want to take note of that point and treat it again. You're going to want to make that part of your personal self care routine until it's way less sensitive. You might not even know what you're unblocking. You might not know that's on your liver meridian, and that explains why your liver function is impaired or why your kidney function is low. Um, it's just going to normalize local electrical activity, and it's going to normalize autonomic activity. That's the secret to the body self regulating again. Self regulation is the key, and there's so many ways to do it. I encourage people to, follow their own intuition, learn whatever techniques they want. But if you go on our website, we have more than a dozen published studies in peer reviewed journals that you can read and look through and verify that validate. There's three on the wall here. This I have another one here. This is one of my favorites because one of the things we did is we taught PTSD veterans. You can read that. PTSD veterans how to treat themselves at home, I'll just quickly read to you what the results of that were. The results were a 52% reduction in pain levels, 30% reduction in PTSD levels, 40% increase in sleep duration, 56% reduction in number of pain pills taken per day, 73% increase in general health, 70% increase in quality of life, and a 75% reduction in average number of home visits per month by healthcare, and a reduction of 79.6 in average number of VA visits, so the Veterans Association visits. So it simplified their life, reduced all their bad symptoms, and increased all their biomarkers and their sleep quality and their ability to self-regulate again with less drugs. So that makes me feel really good inside. That's one of the reasons I'm into this, teaching people how to do this for themselves, because it's not that hard. It's not that expensive compared to most other systems that would try to do this. And it's portable and safe. It's approved by Health Canada and the FDA, and there's no negative side effects. I was actually directly involved in the data collection for this study, and this is on the website. So I just encourage people to continue down the rabbit hole that they're in. Quality of life, longevity, heart rate variability, all these biomarkers that are trending, vagus nerve stimulation techniques. This is the best of the best, in my opinion. We skipped a few things. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, we're at dolphinmps.com and dolphinmps.ca in Canada. Um, Honestly, I don't know what our social media handles are. Vicky, what are same, same? If you go onto YouTube, put in Dolphin MPS or Dolphin Therapy, you'll find us. It's not hard to find us. 36 years at this, you'll find us. Just go down the rabbit hole, educate yourselves. I'm pretty sure you'll come to the same conclusions. And yeah, just do your best to take the best care of yourself possible and try to rediscover your ability to self-regulate, because that's how you're going to get better results stretching anyway. Yeah. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you for your work. Keep up the great work. And we hope it unlocks some of your potential for stretching. And if you have questions, you can contact us. We talk people through this all the time. Thank you, Ian.